Hello everyone, welcome to my little cottage here in Stratford-upon-Avon. I'm Andi Oliver. Welcome to the 5th episode of At the Table, live with TikTok. We're a little bit late. We've had a few technical issues, but we are here with you now. I'm going to be cooking up a little Caribbean feast for you here. I'm going to be making a fish tea, one of my favourite Caribbean dishes ever. It's my interpretation of what a fish tea is like, and I'll be answering your questions. Life, love, food, cooking and everything in between. So let's get started. I've got two Kellys that you can't see that are here with me. One is going to ask me questions, the other one is going to be passing me things. If you want to know who I'm talking to, it's either Kelly or it's Kelly. I'm going over to the stove. Right, first of all, we're going to make a stock. Now, the basis of a fish tea, so if you want to know what a fish tea is essentially in the Caribbean what we call a broth. So it's a light soup. So when we have soup, it's got a lot more going on. It's got dumplings and vegetables and all sorts of things going on. But a tea is what we would here in Europe call a broth. So these are some of my favourite little kitchen go-to easy little trick things. These lovely little gel pots, I absolutely love them. I've got two of these. I've got a little bit of water on the stove already boiling, and I'm going to whack in a couple of these because we want a broth that's got some real depth to it. Nobody likes watery broth. So we're going to put two of those in, and then I've got some aromatics that I'm going to add. This is like a really great thing to do in this kind of weather, autumn, winter, when you want a soup but you haven't got all the time in the world. These little gel pots really, I think, are a brilliant thing. So a bit of fresh thyme going in there, a couple of sprigs of thyme. I've got two whole bird's eye chilies that I'm going to put in. Just drop them in whole. That way you get the floral aroma of the chili, but you don't get all the heat backed up behind it. But be careful not to break them apart in there. Then we've got two garlic cloves that have just been bashed literally by the back of a wooden spoon or a rolling pin. And then in here, I've got a few aromatics. I've got some juniper, I've got some allspice, and I've got some peppercorn. So that's all just going to go into that broth. And then this is going to be a golden broth. And the trick to making it golden, obviously, is add a bit of turmeric. You could add saffron if you're not a fan of turmeric, but the turmeric gives you this incredible depth. Not too much. Turmeric is one of those spices that can go really medicinal if you add too much. So when in doubt with cooking, add a little, because you can always put more in, but you can't take it out once it's in. So I'm putting in, that's like a teaspoon, I would say. And we'll start with that and see how it goes. Now I'm just going to let that simmer gently on the stove while I do the rest of the prep the rest of the ingredients. Right, so I'm going to turn it down a bit because I don't want to lose it all. Later we're going to reduce it and thicken it, and that's going to go all the way around our fish. Right, Kelly 1. Kelly 1, it's Kelly 1 and Kelly 2. You can't see either, but I love them. Kelly 1, what's next?
Are you going to make batter?
I am going to make my sweet corn fritter batter. Now this recipe comes from my dear departed mother-in-law, Lynette, who was just the most wonderful woman in the world. And we use this recipe in our Wadadley kitchen. Wadadley kitchen, my family come from Antigua. And so I'm just doing this by eye because that's how I do. But when you get the recipes, everything is weighed out. And if you don't feel confident, you'll be able to work it out for yourselves directly from the recipe. So we've just got a bit of plain flour. We have on this board, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Wadadley in a second. Don't worry, I'll be back to that in a second. I just want you to keep up with everything else that's going on. So we've got some plain flour. I've got some finely chopped green pepper, red pepper, and yellow pepper for prettiness, really. And there's a sort of lovely irony taste that comes along with that. Some spring onion, that's about 2 spring onions if you chop up there, Kel. And then I'm going to put a little bit of fresh thyme into there. Thyme is a really ubiquitous spice in Caribbean cooking. We use it a lot in a lot of things. It's one of the aromatics that we love. Right, and then I'm going to have a pinch of salt into that mix. A little pinch of salt. And then in here, we've got a bit of baking powder, paprika, allspice, and cayenne pepper. Okay, so that's all going to go into there. Nice little mix. And then we've got a little tin of sweet corn. That's just one small tin of sweet corn. Whack that in as well. This is like easy, everybody down home cooking. Now this jug, this is a really important ingredient in my cooking. Anyone who's ever been to stay with me will know that I always have green oil in my fridge. Do I not, Kelly? Yes, you do, Andy. Do I not, Kelly? Yes, you do, Andy. Because to me, this is like the best shortcut in the world. I just keep this in my fridge, and in it is rapeseed oil, spring onion, chives, garlic, and flat leaf parsley. This is a brilliant, brilliant thing. So when you come home from work and you're absolutely exhausted and can't really bother to cook, you can put a steak on, put a bit of fish on, get some vegetables in the oven, whatever you want to do, run this through it at the end, and it's like, pow, the whole thing comes to life. It's a brilliant, brilliant thing. And then this is the basis of green seasoning, which we use in the Caribbean to tenderize and season meat or fish, whatever we're doing. So if you can have this as a base, then you can add chilies, you can add cumin, you can add whatever you want to it. But if you have this base going, because a lot of the time, the thing you can't be bothered to do is like crush the garlic, right? So this is a really good thing. So anyway, big old lug of green oil into there. And then a really good batter, this is a great thing, use fizzy water. Fizzy water gives you lift. Just put a little in at first, because you don't want to go too far. See, that's look at that lovely colour from the green seasoning. I'm going to put a little bit of black pepper in there. Touch more flour. So we want them to, and then I'm going to put this into the fridge and just let it sit for a few minutes while I carry on with some other stuff. Right. Other Kelly, makeup Kelly. We've got makeup Kelly and we've got Kelly 1. I think that's how we'll
ready to ask.
Distinguish. Here you go, darling. Put that in the fridge for me. Kelly, are you going to ask me some questions, my love?
I would love to, Andy. Would you say plantain or plantain?
Plantain. Always plantain. Plantain. Nobody says plantain. Who says plantain? Do people say plantain?
Apparently so.
Yeah. No, it's never plantain. It's always plantain. In my house, anyway, I've never heard anybody say plantain. Even though that is how it's spelled, I understand the misunderstanding. Kelly 1, what is next?
You can make your pickling liquid.
I'm going to make pickling liquid. I'll come back for another question in a second. Right, over here, so my broth is just bubbling away nicely there. Look at the lovely colour. You can see all the aromatics. Over here, I've got a little bit of water that I've started. We're going to make pickling liquid because we're making escovitch pickle. Now, escovitch pickle is one of those things, it fascinates me because in the Caribbean we call it escovitch. In Portugal, which is where the origin of this dish comes from, it's called escabeche. Now, the Portuguese have been through the Caribbean since the 1500s, 1600s, and they've left their DNA, as so many people have, on not just in our bodies and in our genetic DNA, but also in our culinary DNA. So on the plate, there are so many different cultures represented in Caribbean food. We're not just jerk chicken and rice. So this escovitch pickle, I've got some more thyme again. And then we've got some juniper, some allspice, and some pink peppercorns going into there. That's just a little bit of water I had in there. I'm going to add cider vinegar. I like the tang of cider vinegar. You can just use white vinegar, which I've also got here, just in case I felt like doing that. But I'm going to use my cider vinegar because I just think it's got a different depth to it. It's got a real kind of wax a punch. It packs a punch. So I'm going to put a bit of that in there. A little bit of cider vinegar. I guess that was probably about 150 mils, something like that. And then I've got a little bit of sugar, just a bit of golden caster sugar going into there as well. Not too much because you don't want it to turn into a syrup. Right, so that is the consistency. I think you can probably see that on the top shot, I'm hoping. Yes, you can see that on the top shot. That's the consistency. You just want a light pickling. And as soon as that sugar has dissolved, you want to take it off, because you don't want it to start becoming a syrup. You literally just need the sugar to dissolve. And this is going to form the basis of our escovitch pickle. So I'm taking that off because, like all those people, I've made one earlier. Right. Oh, look at this, Kelly. Kelly 1 on the wheels of steel. Amazing. Right. So I'm going to use this bowl here. Now, for the escovitch pickle part, I've already shaved some onions because I didn't want to have a whole onion drama on camera when I was talking to you. We've shaved this on the mandolin. You can do it by hand. These things, it's just worth getting one. I would just urge everyone to get one. You've got to be a little bit careful, but honestly, you just get that brilliant thing. You know, when you watch people making potato terrines or lovely onions, you think, how do they get them so thin and regular? You always use a mandolin, and it's just the way forward for me. Right, so I'm just going to shave some of these peppers. Other Kelly, you're going to ask me another question. I can feel you waiting to ask me another question. Look at this.
Ready.
These are so pretty. Right, come on.
Andy,
Yes.
where is the first place you're going to go after lockdown?
The first place I'm going to go after lockdown, Antigua. I mean, I have a plan right now that I'm planning to get to Antigua. I'm dying to go to Antigua at the moment for so many reasons. One is, I mean, it's where my family come from and I love it there. It's one of the most beautiful places on earth. But also because I'm in the middle of, my mission at the moment is that I'm researching and talking about and thinking about heritage Caribbean food, and it means so much to me, and I'm dying to get to Antigua to go and find people who I can bore about it, because my family have refused to talk to me about it any further. No, I want to go to Antigua because I want to do more research. I want to start writing. I need to get sun in my, not just on my skin, but in my bones. Do you know what I mean? I need that proper full-on Caribbean unfurl that you get when you get off the plane. That first moment you get off the plane and that waft of hot air hits you and you're just like, oh, I need that feeling so desperately. Right now I'm a little bit running on empty. We're getting on with it, we're all right. So just to catch you up, I've got red, yellow and orange peppers in there. You can of course use whatever peppers you like. I'm going to shave a Scotch bonnet into there now. Now, obviously, if you're a bit shy of the heat, I personally am a bit shy of the heat, it's got to be said. I'm not as, like the people in my family, my daughter, Nikita, and my partner, Garfield, really love some hot food. I am not as hot orientated as them. So you have to just go with what you can do. I'm just going to put one in. I nearly picked up another one because I was talking about Garfield and Nikita. They love it hot. Right, so that's one. And I think that will suffice in our Escovitch episode today. So these are some lovely shaved onions that are going to go in there. Just mix it up a little bit, just a touch, a few more onions. The onions are lovely because once you put the pickling liquid in, it breaks them down. So they don't stay like hot, if you see what I mean. This is the same pickling liquid that I made over there, but we made one earlier. It's got all of the lovely aromatics in. And I'm just going to pour that over those vegetables, over the peppers and the onions. Oh, look at that. And I'm going to put a tiny drop of this in because it's got the garlic and the herbs. And I'm going to get myself a little spoon because I just want to mix that in. There's my spoons. Here are my spoons. Just going to mix that in. And then I want a little bit of salt in there as well because the seasoning helps bring out the other flavours. Remember that about salt. Salt is not just about, it's not something that just sits on the top of food. It actually accents all the other things that are going on in the dish. It's so important. So a little bit of salt. We've got those lovely aromatics, and that's our Escovitch pickle that we're going to leave to one side. I think we can leave that out in the room to develop. Right, Kelly 1, what is next, my love?
You are going to go and do your sauteed vegetables.
Oh, I'm going to saute some vegetables. I love this. We're so organised, Kelly. It's amazing. We talked about this and we hoped it would work, and it does seem to be working. Right, so I've got a little pan on over here. I'm going to put a little bit of rapeseed oil. I'm a big fan of rapeseed oil. It's a really good thing for us to use in this country. It's got all the same properties as olive oil, but of course it's got no air miles, so it's a really great thing for us to use. Beautiful flavour. This is a cold pressed extra virgin olive oil. Look, and I'm up in Stratford-upon-Avon. This is prepared locally, so that's a local product which I also love to use. Right, here I have white sweet potato and plantain. Now, not everybody puts what they call in the Caribbean ground provision or hard food into their fish tea, but I personally am a really big fan of it. Or what people would do is boil it, but I quite like a nice fried texture on the vegetables. I'm going to swap those over because this is a hotter hob and I want that to happen a bit faster. I'm just going to make sure I don't lose too much broth. I'm going to put a bit more water in there. Just need to keep it at a certain level, because you don't. If you over reduce it, you'll just lose all your broth and have to go back to square one. Right. So I'm just starting those vegetables a little saute. A little bit of oil. I'm just going to get a good crisp. I've actually done some already. I just thought I'd put these on as well, just so you can see what they look like. Now, the other thing I wanted to show you now, I've just realised, is the white sweet potato. So, get the water. I've had it sitting in lemon. So, most of the time in this country, when people talk about sweet potato, we talk about the orange ones or the pink ones. This is a white sweet potato. It has a lot less sugar content, so it's not as wet, and it's kind of somewhere in between a parsnip and a white potato, I would say, in terms of texture. It's a bit like a yam as well. If you don't know yam, though, think of a parsnip, think of a white potato, and it's somewhere in between there. White sweet potatoes are the one. I absolutely love them because they're sweet-ish. They're not as sweet and sugary as an orange or pink sweet potato, and you just get a different flavour, and they retain their body and texture for a lot longer. And then this is a plantain, yes, plantain, not plantain. This is a plantain. And you just cut those up and fry them, or you can boil them, or you can roast them in the oven whole in their skin, and then split it open and put grated ginger and lime. Grated ginger and lime will draw out the sweetness of the plantain. You can also put that on top of fried plantain. We also recently started finishing our plantain with salted butter. That's a great delight. Right, Kelly 1, what's next? I'm going to leave these to saute. I'm going to come over there and make some seasoned flour. I'm going to turn these sauteed vegetables down so they just do their little dance for a few minutes, and then we've got the broth over there, which I'm also going to turn down just a little bit. Oh, there we go. This is not my house, not my cooker, but it's all working fabulously well. Right. Now I've got some more plain flour over here, and this is what I'm going to dredge the fish in. So we're making a fish tea, and as I said, it's a fish soup. We're using sea bass. You can use bream, you could use trout, you can use whatever you like. I like sea bass and sea bream. They've got a lovely firm texture. They fry really well, and they're really good value for money. So you can generally, in my local fish shop, you get 4 or 5 for about £8 or £9, and 4 or 5 will go a long way. So one fish feeds 2 people. So, you know, that's a good, I don't know, you do the maths. How many people is that? It's quite a lot of people, all right? Right, so let me get a teaspoon. Excuse me, darling, thank you. I'm going to grab a teaspoon. Right, I've got some nutmeg going into there. I've got some more cayenne pepper going into there. I've got some paprika going into here. A little bit of black pepper, a little bit of salt, and I've got cumin, coriander, and I've got allspice. All running through that flour. Very important that you get the balance right. Now, the thing about spicing, really, is what I always want to tell people, and this is, you know, you learn this through bad experience, really, is when you take it too far, it gets muddy, and you just don't want muddy food. You all right with that over there, darling? Yeah. Right, so I've got a little bit of almond milk going in there. It doesn't have to be almond milk. I'm just using almond milk because that's what I have in the house. And, you know, use what you've got in the house. A big fan of not wasting stuff. So we just dip the fish into the milk and then straight into the flour. Now, this is not really a crust. This is more like we're dredging. We're dredging the fish just so that when we come to fry it in a minute, it's got a lovely crisp exterior. We're not expecting it to be like a big thick like batter or crust. So you see that's quite lightly done. Right, I'm just going to move these out of the way. I'm going to wash my hands because I've actually got some in the fridge that I've already done, haven't I? Oh, no, she's already got it out of the fridge. Because Kelly is a superstar today. Absolutely brilliant. Thank you, my love. And we're going to do that. Yes, no, over here, that's fantastic. Thank you so much, dear. So over here, I've got my sea bass that's all been dredged in the seasoned flour, and then I sat it in the fridge just for about 20 minutes or so, half an hour, just so it can set slightly. You don't have to do that, but I think you get a better end result like that. So look, Kelly's put on the fish for me, put on the oil for me, sorry. See, a little bit of a bubble. It's not too hot. It's absolutely manageable. I'll put 2 pieces in there. Can you pass me the fritter batter, please, out of the fridge? I'm also going to fry. So at this point, everything starts to come together. And I also need some cold butter from the fridge, please. I'm going to just take a spoon of that batter mixture we made earlier. It's kind of set itself in the fridge. Make them nice and small because then they're definitely cooked on the inside. I'm going to drop that into that oil. That could be a little bit hotter. Might take that out for a second. Actually, I want that oil a bit hotter. I'm going to put that back right there. Thank you, darling. And then I'm going to get a little cold butter. When I say a little, I mean a good big whack of cold butter into that stock because we're going to start to reduce it. And now my fish, I'm going to turn that over, just flip it like that. See the beautiful colour you get on it? Really lovely results, very, very easily. Might swap these over because I want that nice and high. And this fish could possibly go slightly more gently. There we go. I'm going to get that a bit fired up. I'm going to turn that fish. I'm going to make a couple more bits of fish. Kelly, have you got more questions for me, darling?
Ready.
You do?
I do indeed.
Thank you. I'm just going to get this fish up onto the plate.
Andy,
Yes?
what is your favourite meal to have cooked for you?
My favourite meal to have cooked for me?
Yes.
I'm quite hard to cook for, I have to say. What do I like to have cooked for me? I like people to make me breakfast, actually. I like but I'm very picky about my eggs, so I'm very conscious that my family are going to hear this. That's why I'm umming and ahhing a bit, because I don't want them to call me a liar. My favourite meal, I guess, my boyfriend sometimes makes me... See, look at that fish. You've got a lovely little finish on it. My boyfriend, I taught him how to make chicken wings, and he makes some excellent chicken wings. So, like a Saturday afternoon, movie day, chicken wings, some like jasmine rice and a really good salad made by my boyfriend, and we just sit down and watch a movie. That makes me very happy, I have to say. I think that's true. Is that true, Kelly?
Yeah, I think so.
I'm just checking. There we go. Now we've got a little bit of a bubble. So when you drop your batter into the oil, that's how hot you want it to be. It was a little bit cold before, so I just took it back out. Right, I'm going to put these other 2 pieces in. We're only making 1 plate of food, but I like to get all the fish cooked. There we go. Let me just give my hands a quick little rinse. There we go. Beautiful. Just put these things in the bin because they're going to bother me. Right. And we're nearly there, actually. Things are looking pretty good around here, people. All right, more questions. Hit me up. Please.
Yes. So, Andy.
Yeah.
Knowing that the cooking industry is dominated by white men,
Yes.
what would you say is the main challenges you face to break through and become as renowned as you are now?
I just think in life, it's very interesting to me the way that we are at the moment in the world, because people seem to be quite fixated on giving themselves a label and then attributing certain behaviour to that label. And, more power to you. If that's what you need in life, then that's fine. For me, I've always found that divesting myself of labels has been the way for me to move forward. So I don't see myself as a black cook or a female cook. I'm just a cook. And I don't allow other people to put me into any box or any margin or any parameters of their making. I am who I decide to be, and I go where I want to go, and I do what I want to do. So if you're in the way, then you might need to get out of the way. That's kind of the way I've always kind of got on with my life. And I think you just got to get on with stuff. You can't wait for other people to give you permission. And I think that often people are waiting. Oh, cool, blimey, that pot. Often I think people are waiting to be given permission to get on with their life, and I think that's a real mistake. You've just got to take what you need and go where, obviously with love and with kindness, but you need to go where you need to go. So focus on it, and don't be swayed. Don't let anybody else tell you you don't have the right to take up space. This is something I've been talking about all week. I did a podcast with these brilliant people called Anthems this week. They asked me to do a verbal essay for them, and I had to really think about what I wanted to talk about. And I realized that what I wanted to talk about was taking up space and feeling like you have the right to be in the room, you know? It's like, of course you do. If you want to be in the room, then you have the right to be in the room. And then you sort of realize that everybody else in the room has probably had to have the same conversation with themselves, you know? So just feel your power, know your power, trust in it, and also know what you're talking about. So make sure that whatever it is you're doing it right and you're doing it well. And then you don't have to be scared so much anymore. That's what I would say to that. Right, so the fish is coming together. Just putting a little bit of butter in at the end because, you know, butter. You know, I don't really have to explain butter, do I? A little bit of butter just for richness and to make everything come together beautifully. Just going to turn these quite lively fritters over again. They're a bit perky, those fritters, but there we go. And I see I'm going to pull this fish off and get that broth on the back. That's better. It's a much better way around. I don't know why I was doing it backwards, but I was. And then we're going to start plating in a second. Got another couple of fritters here. Next question, my love.
What are your thoughts on the new way of living with the pandemic? I know we've now moved to a new virtual setting where most chefs are utilising platforms like TikTok. How are you finding this?
How am I finding what? Sorry, what working, doing things like on platforms like TikTok?
Yeah, so using...
I mean, it's very new to me, but I like it. I just think that finding new ways to share things you love, finding new ways to talk to people is a great thing. So, you know, you're never too old to learn new things. Sometimes things can be a bit intimidating, like I had no idea how this was going to work today, but I'm having a great time. And I just think you need to, I think all creative people know how to adapt. I think it's part of being a creative person. And I'm sorry, I'm going to use this one. Here we go. So in some ways, the pandemic lends itself to a creative person's métier, to our ways of doing things, because we're used to thinking on our feet. We're used to having to adapt. We're used to having to do new things and throwing ourselves in at the deep end. Right, I'm just going to bubble this right up now because I want it nice and thick. So I put loads of butter into it. And I'm putting it on this big, high flame here. I'm going to get rid of this hot oil because we don't need it there anymore. I'm just going to put that down there. Lovely. I'm going to bubble that up and I'm going to bring these things over here because we are going to start plating up in a second. Quite excited. It looks nice, right? Right, so that's bubbling away in a second. So I think that whilst it can be challenging, I'll say that again. I think that whilst it can be challenging and a little scary, change, you just have to embrace change and you just have to go with it. You have to seize the bull by the horns. You have to take a leap of faith. You just have to take a deep breath and just move into the next part. Because if you don't, what are the alternatives? You can't just sit still. That's the way I look at it. That's kind of the way I look at most things anyway. Right, so I'm just going to show you what we're doing here. In here, we've got a little bit of fried plantain and white fried sweet potato. So we're just going to put that into the middle of the plate, like that, comme ça. And then I'm going to take a little bit. Now, this is literally just some steamed spinach that I steamed earlier just because I thought it was going to be very useful because we have to have green on the plate. I can't bear just brown food. Not really. Not unless I'm horribly hungover anyway. So we're going to put some spinach on there because we want the iron and we want the colour and we want that beauty. It's going to go right into the middle of the plate there. And then we're going to choose a piece of our fish. I like this piece. I think that's a particularly nice piece of fish. So we're going to put that sea bass on there. And then I'm going to take one of my fritters and put that on the top. Oh, I'm really enjoying that already. That's making me quite happy. Where's my little jug? Oh, look. Ah, you see? Now this broth, see, it's changed texture. The butter and the bubbling. See, it's got nice and it's got much thicker. You still want it a bit light, remember. It's a broth, not a sauce. That's delicious. I'm going to pour that into... Oh, I'm going to use something else because if I do it like that, it's going to go everywhere. Where's that plastic jug that I had? Do you know where it is, anyone? All right, I'm going to put it into this jug here. It's the one thing I didn't think of. I thought of everything else. I'm going to put it into this jug here. I'm going to put it over the sink, just in case. There we go. There we go. Lovely, lovely, lovely. And then that's going to go into this little jug. We love a little jug. I love a little jug. Just makes me happy. So then we've got our broth here. And we're going to take our gorgeous pickle. All of those flavours have come together. I made a happy little dance. I'm going to pull some of that out and just scatter it around the plate a little touch. Quite a lot of onion. Let's get a few more of those peppers out. Lovely orange ones as well, I think. Gorgeous. And I'm going to take this broth. I'm going to pour that around the tea.
Andy, can I ask you one of the questions from the fans, please?
Yes, please.
I've got a question from its_Ruby on TikTok.
Okay.
What is your favourite part of your culture and why?
You know, I think it's the accent on family and the accent on simple things actually making you happy. You know, for me, culturally, the thing that when I think about growing up and I think about my family, the things that were important, I think about like Sunday and Sam Cooke and things like this, and making cauliflower cheese with my mum and dad, and great tunes, and just people. People were the things that made me happy, and people were the things that have kept me going through my whole life and kept me, you know, kept me steady when I needed to be steady. It's like you can have all the external stuff you like, you can have a good car, you can have all sorts of things, and it's nice to have those things, of course. But if you don't have people and you don't have family, then you're not really anywhere. And I think that is something that I definitely learnt from my family. And I think it's something that's key to my culture. I'm going to take a little bit more of this little green. Just going to drop it around. And there we have. I'm going to clean that up because that's going to bother me. There we go. Thank you, darling. And there we have our fish tea.
Gorgeous.
I'm really pleased with that.
Amazing. Can I ask you another fan question,
Yes,
Andy?
please do.
I have one from that Alison Huntley on IG.
Hi, Alison.
Don't you have to dance if you're on TikTok?
Apparently not, Alison. Apparently you don't have to dance on TikTok. I'd be happy to dance. I just don't have any music. I mean, there's constantly music in my head, but I'm not sharing that with you right now. I will, do you know what? I will come back and I will dance on TikTok. You
Amazing.
can hold me to that. I mean, I dance a lot. It's kind of how I stay slightly sane. Slightly.
Ready.
Is that it? More questions?
I have more questions for you.
Answer me questions, yes.
I have another question from @Babs Scrawshaw on IG.
Babs Crawshaw. Hello, Babs Crawshaw. I know who you are.
Where can we expect you to share your gorgeous recipes?
Oh, these recipes will be on a TikTok body post. I think that's what it's called, a TikTok body post. So all the recipes will be here on TikTok. They'll also be on Facebook, on the Facebook Andy's Wadadley Kitchen page, and they'll be on the Instagram Andy's Wadadley Kitchen page. Well, they'll be up tomorrow. Everything will be there tomorrow.
I'd like to ask you one.
All right.
What's the most challenging dish you've ever made?
The most challenging dish I've ever made, I don't know if it's a dish, it's more for me, it's been the circumstances under which we've had to deliver food. So we used to call it guerrilla cooking. You know, we used to have a pub in Columbia Road Flower Market, and it was just the nuttiest place. It was so much fun, but quite wild. And we didn't really have a proper kitchen there. So we'd people would book in dinner parties or Christmas dinners and things like that, and we would rent in range cookers and all sorts of equipment, and we we rented in these range cookers, managed to get them up these, it was a 17th century pub, so the hallways were really, really narrow, and we would get people to lug, Kelly is rubbing her head as I'm saying this because she ran the pub with me, so she's having a little PTSD right now. So we would lug all the equipment up these stairs. When I say we, I mean I'd get some people to do it for me, lug all this equipment upstairs, and we got it all upstairs, managed to hook up the gas bottles. We had this really quite intricate, I would write these menus, you know, and so there was like sort of stuffed confit duck legs and roast potatoes and all sorts of intricate, fabulous things, pumpkins stuffed with sweet corn custard and all sorts of things. We managed to make it on these ridiculous cookers. I don't know how we did it, honestly. It was guerrilla cooking because we kind of felt we could deliver anything anywhere. Anyway, this one time we were doing Christmas dinner for about 35, 40 people, and the ovens went down halfway through it, and the potatoes weren't done. So we had to get giant buckets and take all the roast potatoes out, put them in and turn them into mashed potatoes. And our friend Helen, she's been my hero ever since this moment, took off her top and got a giant rolling pin and just bashed them like some kind of cave woman until we had mashed potatoes for 35, 40 people. I've never seen anything like it. She is a star. Helen Hall, you are a star.
I have one final last question for you, Andy. What is something about Caribbean food origins you'd like everybody to know?
I think what I'd really like people to know about the origins of Caribbean food is how broad and how broad a palette the Caribbean cuisine really has, because people think about it in very reductive terms. They think about jerk chicken, they think about rice and peas, and maybe one other dish, I'm not even sure. But if you look, as I was talking about earlier with the Portuguese influence, there is Portuguese, there is Spanish, there is Chinese, there is Asian, there is Italian, there is French, there is food from all over the world is encompassed within Caribbean cuisine. And that is my real passion, is to share that with people, to find out as much for myself. And as I learn, I want to share it with other people, because I just think it's a treasure trove. There's a wealth of knowledge and history. And when we learn about our history, and we can do that through food, because food is social history. When we learn about our past, it teaches us about our present, which helps us with our future. So for me, it's of the utmost importance, and it's really more than just the sum of the ingredients on the plates. This tells a story, and I think it's a story worth hearing. Right, now, I'm going to read this to you because it's been a very, very crazy day, okay? Right, I need you to have this information, so I'm going to read it to you. Obviously, thank you to all of you for joining me here on TikTok, and thank you for your patience, because I know we were a little bit late. I hope that you enjoyed this recipe, and I hope you get to cook it. I'm about to eat it because I love it. To close us, I really want you to enjoy our My Roots Hero film from our Black History Month campaign, and join us back here on Tuesday the 20th for Educational Equity Live. That's Tuesday the 20th, Educational Equity Live. Thank you so much for joining me. I've had a great time. I hope you enjoyed it too.
Cheers. Thank you, everybody. Hey, Andy.
Hi, Chris. How was that? All right?
Absolutely